my last video, I gave a breakdown of why a lot of women don't go for nice guys, aka the Steves of the world. If I'm not funny enough, or I'm not intelligent enough, and I don't have the material items that you're looking for, I might not be 6 feet tall, I might not have a foreign car, but I can step up my acts of service, putting the works on you to make up for those deficiencies. Whoa, baby! I got a lot of pushback from the male species. I noticed that a lot of men were pushing this narrative that all women are naive human beings who can't think for themselves and don't know what they want. Men know what women want, but we don't know ourselves. Or there was the narrative that if we don't want the nice guy, then we must want Pookie and Ray Ray, the hood boogers of the world, because there can't be an in-between. Pardon me as the New York in me comes out a bit. I'm gonna keep it a buck with y'all, respect your feelings and everything, but when you make comments like that and make it seem like women don't know what we're talking about, even though we're living and breathing as women, it comes across as a cop-out so that you don't have to address the things within yourself that might be undesirable to women. But anyway, I have 2 main talking points today. The first one is breaking down the differences between nice guys and good men. And secondly, I want to address the sentiment that Black women are more prone to overlook the nice guys compared to other races of women. Oh yeah, y'all, it's gonna get real today. I did notice that there seemed to be some confusion on what a nice guy is. A lot of people use nice guy and good guy interchangeably, but I believe that they are two vastly different things. Even though I hate this word, I realize that what I'm considering a nice guy is what men would consider a simp. It's a man who is desperate for the attention or affection of women who are not interested in him. Again, this is different than being a good or a kind person. Let me break it down for y'all real quick. A person who is kind is sincere and genuine. They want to be kind because it feels good to be kind. They don't have ulterior motives, and they're not being kind just to get something in return. They do not change how they act depending on who is watching, and they are able to utilize their voice, stand up for themselves, and be assertive. And then we have the nice people. They do not come across as being authentic. They act nice because they feel like it's expected of them. They want people to notice their niceness, and they're often being nice just to get something in return. Often nice because they have a strong desire to be liked, and they can get taken advantage of because of their niceness. If you are a good or a kind man, you're good because that's just who you are. If you're a nice man, you're usually playing the role of being nice to get something in return, so it's more transactional than it is authentic. I believe that if you are behaving in your natural state versus playing a role because you're expecting to get something, you're not going to internalize it as much when things don't go your way. For example, I like to think of myself as a trustworthy person. I'm honest, your secrets are safe with me, and even though I'm not perfect, I'm pretty authentic overall. I am aware that these are qualities that men may find desirable, but I'm not a trustworthy person because I'm trying to get a man. It's who I am as a person. These are my values. If I'm dating someone and it doesn't work out, or I feel like he mistreated me, I don't feel like he owes me something just because I'm a trustworthy person. I wouldn't then decide to change being trustworthy because he or anybody else didn't appreciate it, because that conflicts with my internal value system. So the connection that I'm making here is that those who advertise being nice and actively say that they're a nice guy, they're often playing a role. They feel as if they're owed the attention of women just because they're nice. Being nice just doesn't cut it. Being authentically kind should be a standard for everyone. Being a decent human being doesn't guarantee that you're gonna be a top pick. Quick sidebar, women are telling you that we want you to be a decent, thoughtful person, but we don't want you to force being nice. being overly agreeable, showering with unwanted affection as a form of a fear response because you're worried that she won't be interested otherwise. And honestly, this isn't specific to men. I think that this should be a standard for everyone. Just thinking about overall well-being, it's not good to overperform and give because you're not confident with the qualities that you possess. I might ruffle some feathers with this. Men love quoting Chris Rock's statement about unconditional love.
A man is only loved under the condition that he provides something.
If your complaint is that men are only valued for what they do for women, why would you use or support the strategy of overgiving, overdoing to get the woman, and then complain that women don't love unconditionally? You literally reeled her in on the condition that you're giving her something. It just seems very counterintuitive. But the most valid / interesting point is that Black women are one of the only races of women who have a negative disposition toward nice men. I honestly haven't been exposed to enough women of other races and witnessed their relationship dynamics to agree or disagree with that statement. I did try to find studies on this, but there's not really a lot out there. So these are just my hypotheses based on observation, having a general understanding of psychology, and articles that I found online. Let's revisit the discussion about nice men lacking masculinity. I think that we see this a lot when men do not have a strong male presence when they're growing up. And if they're in a household where they were raised by a woman, she will raise him to be a nice guy, right? So to have those softer skills in a sense, but in reality, she's raising him to be a little bit more on the feminine side. And so it's off-putting for women. Let's talk about fatherlessness. I know that there is an agenda in the media to make us feel like most Black men are not involved fathers, but we can't deny the numbers. These numbers are looking at the living arrangements of children under the age of 18 based on race and ethnicity. Black people have the lowest percentage of households with two parents that are married. So we're sitting at about 37.9%. About 46% of households have the mother only. There could be some cases where the parents have split and now the mother has primary custody. Whatever the case may be, we can agree that the father is not living in the household. And most, if not all of us, can agree that this typically has negative impacts on children. As a reminder, I am not a feminist. Children will always be at some form of a disadvantage whenever they don't have a maternal and paternal figure present during childhood and adolescence. Sons will need a man to emulate, and this ties into his masculinity. With daughters, that paternal interaction is her first encounter with a man, and that sets the tone for how she will interact with men in the future. When a father figure is not present, it causes havoc. I don't want to regurgitate talking points that you might have heard in other videos, but in summary, fatherlessness impacts self-esteem, emotional well-being and mental health, increased levels of aggression, which leads to increased crime rates, which leads to higher incarceration rates, etc., etc., etc. And unfortunately, there are too many cases of etceteras. But I would also add that there are impacts to masculinity and femininity. Let's discuss masculine and feminine energy. Men and women possess both feminine and masculine energy. The goal is to be more so balanced in both, which is where the term yin and yang comes from. But we're specifically going to focus on the wounded feminine and the wounded masculine. An example of a woman who is walking in unhealthy or wounded feminine energy is a woman who is insecure and often seeks external validation, can't control her emotions, is needy in relationships, is afraid of loss or has abandonment issues, and becomes very attached to people in an unhealthy way, desperate for love and always chasing it, and possesses unhealthy internal masculine energy. The man who is overly competitive and always needs or wants to win, avoids connection and can be cold and distant, always needs to be right, takes everything personally, can be aggressive, is critical and judgmental, not in touch with his emotions, and he too possesses unhealthy internal feminine energy. We know that Black men and Black women are experiencing fatherlessness at higher rates than other racial groups. My hypothesis is that we, women, are not witnessing a healthy example of a paternal figure during key developmental phases, and this is skewing our sense of femininity. We are operating from a state of wounded femininity. When you think of what the healthy or divine feminine is, it's a woman who is grounded, she's receptive, and she's reflective, does introspection. With that comes accountability. She is loving, empathetic, compassionate, and supportive. She is vulnerable and authentic. She is naturally intuitive and listens to her heart rather than her mind. All of which are things that women struggle with if they have daddy issues. Believe me, I know firsthand. Like attracts like, meaning that we often gravitate toward people who mirror something within ourselves. If we are operating from a space of being wounded and low vibrational, we will in turn seek out men who are doing the same. If we think back to some of the traits of being in a wounded masculinity state, being aggressive, emotionally unavailable, overly competitive, these are very common qualities that you'll find in a bad guy. My hypothesis is that because women are not seeing healthy examples of a balanced man from a young age, we attract the bad guys and misinterpret these unhealthy qualities for confidence, being successful or goal-oriented, and being assertive. I get that Black men are frustrated with Black women because of this, and I also get that Black women are frustrated with men who are not operating in a state of healthy masculinity. Many of us have been operating in an unbalanced state when it comes to masculine and feminine energy, and we don't even realize it. Some haven't done introspection to make these realizations. Doing the shadow work, having difficult conversations with ourselves, and being honest with potential partners about these deficiencies is the only way that we're going to get out of this negative space. I challenge each of you to do a deep dive of the dynamics that you see within your family and also within yourself, and see if it parallels the same things that you're complaining about. If we choose not to do the work and constantly point the finger at everyone else, we're going to keep passing on generational curses, cycles of trauma.